So a little while back, I made a video where I took some of my old drawings and I modeled them and turned them into these 3D models. I'm flashing them up on screen right now. We worked on 4 last video, but there are just a few others that I want to make. I'm only making 3 for this episode, mainly because while I am kind of voicing over my time lapses, I want to be able to have some more time to talk about each one, because each of these are quite more unique than the others that I have previously shown. Alright, so let's kick this one off with our first entity that we will be showing, which is Entity 5. This entity starts off as an isosphere, which is kind of like the normal UV sphere, except instead of squares, it's with triangles. Here I am working on the legs. The legs are kind of simple. I kind of just went with something basic, kind of curved up boots, because with the design of this particular character, he kind of looks a little bit like a clown. So I kind of wanted to exaggerate certain parts of the figure, such as the toothy grin, which looks super goofy, by the way, and sort of the pointed shoes to kind of give it that sort of clown aesthetic. Went in, you notice that little mark that I did on the top of the head. That was kind of like a little marker spot that was located on top of the character. I think it was just like a mistake or something, but I decided to keep it because it made it interesting. Now, I know that right now he looks a little bit like Baldi from Baldi's Basics, but once I get, some of the more needed textures in, it will start to look more unique. You can kind of see this little thing I did with the tongue where I modeled it from the back of the head and into posing and brought it forward through the mouth. It was mainly because I didn't know exactly how I wanted it to do the tongue. Because it kind of looks like it could be teeth, I'm not too sure. But based on what this drawing shows, it kind of looks like he has a little tongue poking out between his teeth. And I made his teeth that sort of lime green to sort of mimic the green and the yellow that we were seeing from the teeth. I made a quick little texture here just showing how I kind of wanted his torso to look. Kind of more textured but vibrant, similar to how it is in the picture. If you noticed before, I had the head this transparent look because of the background of the picture matching the background of the head. So I was like, oh, it could be see-through. And then that got me thinking, wait, why don't I make the rest of it see-through? It would get rid of that sort of baldy look, and plus, it would just look cooler. I kind of turned its sort of multicolored teeth into a multicolored tongue instead. You'll see later that I turned the teeth into silver. Decided to add some extra detail on the torso because it was just looking a little bit like a limp noodle. Same with the legs, so I tried doing some things with the legs to see if I can make them either look bigger or just more detailed. You'll see that as I get close to the end, I'll add a little bit of extra bits on the legs, kind of make them look a little bit bigger and more intimidating, because I feel like with the long thighs and the short calves, it kind of look a little derpy. But I mean, it's derpy just the way it is. Next up is a character that I would assume is probably the same character as Box, but based on the recoloring, I decided to make him a different character. I decided to make their facial expressions and just overall appearance in the face slightly different than that of Box's, of what it was. And I'm not going to include the Box in him either. It seemed like there was a lot of other little characters in him that are just surrounded, and I felt like that should be the focus for him. Kind of made the eyes pop out a bit and sort of sunken in at the same time. Had its interesting sort of bordered edge look. The eyebrows were kind of simple. The mouth was also kind of simple. All I did was basically just do an easier sort of job, I guess, with that sort of Pac-Man look. I found an easier way of doing it, and quite frankly, probably a more detailed way of doing it. It's like I upgraded Boxes, but I'm gonna keep Box the way he is. He's got his uniqueness. He's got bigger gums and bigger teeth than this guy will have. So I kind of just decided, you know what, just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. You can work on some of the other quirks of this guy later on. And honestly, based on just what he looks like in the picture, there really isn't anything special about him other than the fact that he's, I guess, he's white and he has eyebrows. That's probably his only distinguishing feature out of the entire drawing that makes him any different from Boxes, is that he has eyebrows. I decided to give him sort of a neck sort of detail. I don't know really what I was thinking. It felt needed because I wanted it to be at least distinguishable from Boxes. Kind of started posing him around, make sure that the armature worked. Armature was a little bit difficult only because of how it got imported into Blender. Some of the bones just didn't connect up properly, so the auto IK was just not working as well as I would hope. I also made his fingers and sort of limbs a bit thinner than what Boxes has, because Boxes has more thick, sort of almost muscular limbs. And so I wanted to make this guy a bit different. I was kind of going back and forth on what I exactly wanted his look to be. Wasn't sure if I should give him pants, wasn't sure if I should give him a sort of scale look that goes from orange to green. I eventually just settled on, you know what, just give him some socks. Multicolored socks. Kind of give him whatever that would be. I eventually changed it. I kind of made it look more like a worm. Changed the sock decal, kind of made it more in line with what the drawing is, because it's just a flat color, so to speak. I got a texture for the eyebrows from one of my old projects that I did a while back for some sort of discontinued school project, and thought, hey, it's a nice gradient, would look really cool for kind of looking like the light from the eyes is reflecting off the brows. As you can see, I was just unhappy with it just being the one character, so I was like, you know what? Make it twins. Because there was a lot of characters in this drawing. It's really hard to tell, but there's just a bunch of like blue amalgamations just around this guy's body. It'd be cool if to make him just that much different, just make him into two. The last one that I planned on making for this video, I have to say, is probably my favorite, and that's not because I'm biased because I love dragons and anything dragon related. It's just that this guy's design was unique, more unique than the others, and I say that because you really don't know when you're looking at the drawing what exactly you're looking at. It's kind of like Entity 3, how Ivory just has that look of, what on earth am I looking at? It's so interesting, but at the same time, it's so confusing. At least with this character, I tried to make them at least a little bit more recognizable as being a creature of something, I guess, as something that is recognizable to a person. Best way I could describe this creature is probably a better description than what I can give for Entity 3. And that is a stingray mixed with a bat that has a whale for a head. That has a whale's head. That's the best description I could give for this character. I think it sticks. I like the description of this whale bat stingray creature. And with its design, I also had an idea for what mechanics I can have this character be for. For example, say there's catwalks. like for stairs and such, or broken bridges. You just have this character just chilling out underneath, hanging on underneath a catwalk or a broken bridge, and if you walk over, he'll gobble you up. That was you know, kind of a design that I was going for, kind of mixing functionality with fashion. Yeah, function meet fashion meets function. Whatever you want to call it. I know there's a name for it. Tell me down in the comments what it is. The wings were a little bit complicated because I hadn't modeled a dragon in a hot second. I think the last time I even thought of modeling a dragon was, I want to say, maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I've only been doing Blender for maybe, what, 2, 3 years now? About almost, yeah. I kind of started this sort of thing with Blender and just doing stuff with Blender in like high school, which I'm very grateful for the class that I had that taught me a lot about Blender. I think it was multiple classes, but yeah, it was really nice. And then over the like summers and stuff, I would just kind of fiddle around with Blender, seeing how far I can get with just playing around with stuff without having to do tutorials. The only thing I really had to look at the tutorial for, I think maybe a few times, were armatures, because I could not figure those out for a while. But once you figure them out, it becomes really simple. It is so simple. It's just a matter of understanding how bones work and how you can avoid having weird things happen with said character models based on how they're modeled. You'll see that in a bit as I get close to the end. I had to adjust the wings a bit to kind of have a more sort of smoother folded look than it looking like geometry. Went in, did some of the texturing, this little bit here, just to getting the UV mesh to do what I wanted it to. I didn't think I was gonna have a hard time with it, but man, it was difficult. It was definitely harder than some of the other creations I did, since I was so intently focused on the textures. I didn't have to be. I mean, outright, you could see the picture is just a blob of green. You can only just barely make out that there is some sort of pterodactyl creature in the mix. I must have been going through my dinosaur phase at that time. I don't know. But it's quite great. It's quite interesting looking. It's very much like you would see it either as like an alien from an alien movie or some sort of Dungeons and Dragons creature. I saw it from this angle, just with playing with the lights and the textures, and I was like, dang, that's nice. I'm gonna save that as a picture. I'm gonna make that something I post later.